make it there and can make it back.
Salutations and shit, folks. Welcome back to another episode of your favorite travel podcast, Travel and Shit, where I, your host, D. Carey, have an experiential conversation about the nuanced ways that travel intersects with regular life. I guess the easiest segue into this is that death happens to be a part of regular life. And I remind you guys every week that there are a million different reasons for travel, and there are also thousands of ways to travel. Unfortunately, not everybody travels for good reasons. Many people travel for nefarious reasons. This week's episode is about vacations gone wrong. It is also, I guess you can say, a shout out to one of my personal favorite podcasters, podcast networks, podcasts in general, Crime Junkie. I, dear listeners, happen to be a crime junkie myself. I love the show. Absolutely love what Ashley and her co-host Britt do every week. And what in particular stands out to me about Crime Junkie is that they are, the first two words that came to mind were gentle and humane. But in true crime, it can be a very hard niche to work in because these are people's actual lives, and these actual people have actual people that love them, families that are missing them, families that are still looking for them, families that are still fighting for justice. And I really appreciate Crime Junkie for being very tasteful and tactful in the way that they handle these people's stories. These are people's actual lives, unfortunately, that make it to their mics, if you will. Ashley, girl boss extraordinaire, does not just have Crime Junkie. She's got an arsenal of different shows under her Audio Chuck network. And I listen to quite a few of them. The Deck Investigates, Park Predators. I feel like she had, there's also, I forgot what it's called, Halloween, Hollow Chills or Spooky Chills, something chills. But during the Halloween season, they do a bunch of scary short stories, which are narrated and beautifully, beautifully, beautifully done. Like, big fan, big fan. So this week I am highlighting three of Ashley's shows. Two of them are Crime Junkies, and one of them is from the show Park Predators, which is actually hosted by Delia D'Ambra. And she's actually one of my favorite voices to listen to in terms of being a podcaster. I enjoy the cadence of her voice. And I enjoy the work that she does on the stories that she tells also. So two of the stories are from Crime Junkie episodes, and another is from a Park Predator episode. The three episodes that I'm going to highlight are, unfortunately, stories of people who have actually gone missing or died on vacation. We're coming up on 6 years of travel and shit, and over the past 6 years, we have had an incredible time talking about all the fun, exciting, glamorous, not so glamorous, you know, ways I've traveled, places I've been, people I've run into, curious conversations. This entire show is diving into life's curiosities. But a little balance. Unfortunately, there are terrible things that happen on vacation. And I think that knowing that gives us a little bit of space to, appreciate making it home safely. It gives us, more of a reminder, unfortunately, that not everyone is as fortunate in, and mind you, the show Crime Junkie, Park Predators, they don't just it's not a travel podcast. Like, they don't highlight or specifically focus on travel cases, but these episodes in particular are, you know, the sort. But they highlight cases of people that unfortunately die in their homes, die in their hometowns, and the such. But so that to say that travel is complex. So just want to go over some of the stories that stuck out to me over the years of, listening to the show. And the first one that I will start with, let's start with Park Predators. So Park Predators is actually a show, again, hosted by Delia D'Ambra. And she, national parks, beautiful, incredible scenery, great hiking, wild animals, all that shit, right? I feel like I may have mentioned it in the past, but oh, yes, it was a Weird Things About Places I've Been. I think it was about Joshua Tree, or at some point I mentioned California. I personally have been to the Grand Canyon. I went with a new friend that I'd made on a trip right before I went to Vegas, and he ended up driving me to the Grand Canyon. And oddly enough, I remember him asking one of the park rangers, because I think something had come over the radio that sounded a bit disconcerting. And he was like, "Oh, so do people like die in the park?" And I was, "Oh, excuse you, like, why would you fucking ask that?" And and then the ranger kind of like gave a look and was just like, something. I don't think he directly said yes, but it was kind of like a yes. And then he went to like answering on the radio and like walked off. And it was just like, hmm, strange of you to ask that, friend that I am here in a national park alone with. But yes, people die in national parks. People have accidents in national parks. I think I saw something recently about two kids that were just discovered after going on a hiking trip or something, like real time, not like a show or something. I think it was in the news or whatever. But the show discusses people that go missing or that are killed in national parks. Enjoy the show. This episode in particular was actually aired quite recently. I'd say it was one of the last three or so episodes. And I will have the links to all of the episodes in the show notes, obviously. And I want to say this one was called like The Expedition or something like that. So, in a nutshell, a husband and wife, 62-year-old Larry Rudolph, and his wife, 57-year-old Bianca Rudolph, ended up going to Kafue National Park in Zambia, Africa. It's got like, I think 8,000, over 8,000 miles of like, or is it 8,000 acres? Shit is huge. A lot of it undiscovered, or I guess uncharted, if you will. And for a while, hunting was a no. However, turns out that trophy hunting is, while lucrative. I didn't know because I'm not a hunter, but a license, where did I put it here? Oh, a license to legally kill a lion could cost somewhere around $25,000. Like, around. So, could be way more. Pretty sure it's not way less. That's just the license to kill a lion. Don't know if there are different fees for different animals. Don't know if you need a license to kill each individual animal you intend to try to hunt. So I don't know if, what else do people, I don't know if tigers are there or not. But if, I don't know if there's another license you need for tigers. I don't know if there's a license you need for warthogs or whatever else you're going to hunt in this park. But those shits is wild expensive. You additionally have to get yourself there. You also have to pay for lodging, food, other accommodations, and little things like a vehicle, somebody to drive you, a guide, all of these things. People spend wild money on these trips, trophy hunting, if you will. A lot of people spend a lot of money on them, and not me. I don't know anything about that in particular, but maybe that'll be another episode. I don't know. We'll get to that. But turns out this gentleman, Larry Rudolph, was actually the Safari Club International's board president at two separate times. So Safari Club International, I don't want to jump and say that they are US based. However, they are an organization of hunters that go to these countries, and not just Zambia, but they go wherever in the world. There's something they want to hunt and kill. But this Safari Club International, uh, whole host of niggas with money, because clearly this is an expensive sport. There are tons of different types of guns that, not tons, but like there are many different guns. Many of them travel with their firearms because you're shooting the animals. I assume everybody shoots with their own guns. I don't know, but yeah, people are traveling with their guns. Obviously, they're not going to be on or in a carry-on, but locked, ammunition separate. If they even bring their own ammo, I'd assume these people can also afford to purchase ammo there should they want. But familiar with lots of guns, and they bring them with them to do the shooting. Multiple different types at that. And I have a note here that because trophy hunting was such a huge tourism driver, the government was willing to lift the protective wildlife ban. And that's at the park in particular. So these trophy hunts, these types of tourists, I want to say, I could be wrong about this statistic, but maybe 62% of these hunters are American, which sounds very American of them. But I believe the majority of them are American. So this is a very lucrative business for the good people of Zambia. All right, so story about what happened. Wild early in the morning, it's about 5:30. Two of the staff members end up hearing a gunshot. You wouldn't think that it's weird because they are they're in a space where they know people are hunting, but they know and recognize that this is a gunshot that's coming from very nearby. They end up rushing to where they hear the shot, and they find this guy, Larry, distraught. Oh my God! Oh my God! My wife, she's killed. She's killed herself. This is terrible. Kill me now! Kill me now! And he like feigns jumping into throwing himself into like a river full of crocodiles or alligators, whichever is native to the area. And the people get him to calm down, and then Larry calms down, and then all of a sudden she had an accident. She was trying to pack the guns, and she shot herself. So strange. Okay, that changed. Um, Additionally, there was a rush for him to cremate his wife's body. He ended up calling the embassy or the American consulate and was just like, yeah, cool, cool, cool. I need a death certificate, but I also want to expedite the cremation. Thankfully, someone in that office was like, yeah, cool story. Hear you, boss. However, I got to go see things for myself. He actually goes to investigate. This is the person from the embassy. He actually goes to investigate a couple of days later, and he's looking at like crime scene photos, listening to stories. This dude's story is not really adding up, right? I don't remember who he told, the husband, Larry. I don't know who Larry told, but initially he was saying, I was in the shower and then I heard the gun and then I found out that, then I found her. But in crime scene photos, Larry's fully dressed, shirt tucked in, belt, shoes. So I guess further investigation, and homie's like, so you were in the shower, but you dried off, got dressed neatly at that, not just like threw something on or threw a towel on or threw whatever was on. Like you literally put your clothes on, right? And so there are crime scene photos of him being dressed, but then he told somebody else he was in the shower. And then it was she killed herself, but it was an accident. Turns out the wife, Bianca, was not exactly a shooter when they first got together, but throughout their marriage, they had gone on multiple trips like this, and she'd become very familiar with multiple different types of firearms. So, like, people that know her family is just like, don't really think this is our girl. She wouldn't really kill herself. This isn't something that she would do. She also wouldn't just play with the guns like they're not fucking guns. She would be more careful because she understands how they work and how dangerous they are, and she would, follow suit appropriately. She would handle the weapons as such. So between the accident or between the wife's death, the story changing, all this is sounding suspicious. However, the body still gets cremated, to my understanding. Yeah, okay. So there were some questions. However, the Zambian police ruled the death an accident and indeed did close the case. So Larry leaves Zambia and goes home to his mistress. Turns out he had been cheating with this woman. I want to say her name is Lori, for mad years. Larry ended up making his money as a dentist, dental business. He ended up having a practice that he opened with some colleagues. Guess that did well. He goes on and opens his own practice, but I believe this was in the 90s. He ends up leaning heavy into marketing and his shit blows up. So he's doing very well for himself. He travels often. He does, this hunting, spends money, nice house, all that jazz. He comes back from the trip where his wife dies and shortly after moves in with the mistress. Turns out the mistress actually used to work at one of the dental offices. The people at the office, they all know. They somebody, I think the woman Lori or the mistress. Let's just refer to her as the mistress because I did not put her name in the notes. But I feel like I remember the name very clearly because I feel like one of my friend's mom's names is Lori. So I was like, oh, I know that name. So they work together. Everybody on the dental staff, they know that he's been cheating. So the staff is familiar. Turns out, mind you, Larry ends up being able to live comfortably for about 5 years. Hold on to that information. He comes home, they sell the house that he was living in with the deceased wife, buys a new house. Larry actually has two kids. Seems like the kids stand by Larry and feel like he would never hurt the mom or whatever. So Larry goes on to live his life for about 5 years. And during that 5 year window, though, knock, 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 ring dong, people will call him the feds. One of Bianca, the deceased wife's friends, called and was like, I think y'all should look into this. I believe one of her claims was like, my friend was a very staunch Catholic. She would not have been cool with cremation and a couple other things. One of the co-workers from the dental office is like, check this out. We all know Lori's been cheating. And we heard that the mistress gave uh, Larry an ultimatum, leave your wife and all of that jazz. Leave your wife, sell the dental business, or I'm leaving kind of thing. And I feel like he was with the mistress for like 9 years or something like that. He was with her for a while. Some people think that Bianca knew, but turns out there was a case where Larry was I don't know if he was being sued or if he was being charged, but there was something going on where he was being accused of um, trying to seduce, I think, somebody that was part of that club, the SCI, and Safari Club International. He had been trying to seduce or sending inappropriate sexual messages to someone in that organization. And Bianca at the time was like, not my man. No, no, no. She was like the wife standing up for her husband. And so there was a lot of conflicting kind of information. So, oh, Another thing that popped up, turns out there were seven, not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, not six, but seven life insurance policies for Bianca, and them joints total $5 million. So bells, anyone? Any bells ringing? That sounds wild to me as well. Um, so the tips from the feds, by the coworkers and the mistress, and so the FBI was pretty certain that with those tips, as well as investigations that were going on, that they would be able to at least get Larry on mail fraud. And well, not even at least, they felt like they could get him for murder and for mail fraud. Um, One of the things that was interesting about the reporting in the episode was, seems like 5 years is a long time, but turns out there were a lot of things that were going on, investigations. One thing that I didn't know was in someone else's prior investigation closer to when the death had happened. I want to say it was around the time that um, Zambia was saying, "Oh yeah, it's an accident. You can cremate the body." I believe it. I don't know if it was the embassy worker or someone else that was investigating, but two things. So there was, I think it was called stippling. You know, you've heard it from like a Law and Order episode or something like that. But long shotgun or the rifle. I don't know if it was a shotgun or a rifle, but it was a long gun. And the way those fire, the bullets, like they kind of spread out. Basically, from the bullet wound, the wound in her chest, it wasn't close range. It was a couple feet away. So her accidentally shooting herself didn't line up with the way the facts of the the death, if you will. Um, Additionally, they also proved that she literally could not reach the trigger, like, and outstretch her arm. Like she couldn't shoot herself in the chest and reach the trigger. So that wasn't happening. There was no, like, she couldn't do it. I believe they even tested the gun to see if it was something that maybe it malfired, maybe it was an issue with the gun. That proves that very highly implausible that that happened. It didn't accidentally fire. Also, in that investigation that the feds were doing, I want to say it was a Rolling Stone article that was noted in the episode. But there was some investigation that was done after the fact, and I'm pretty sure it was Rolling Stone did a story on it, and they found that there was tons of like white collar crime going on with Larry. They were investigating the dental practices. Turns out, old boy, don't remember if he told somebody. Somehow he claimed that he might have been going fishing or something. Somehow this man like had part of his finger um cut off, broken, just something was wrong with his thumb. So he couldn't practice medicine, and he was getting like $30,000 disability checks like a month or something. Like he was getting wild money in disability based on his thumb issue. Turns out, I believe that shit wasn't happen. Like that didn't happen, or they proved that he was faking the injuries or the extent of the injuries. He had been lying about multiple things. Um, so it took 5 years, but after investigating on August 1st of 2022, they found him guilty for murder and mail fraud. And okay, yeah, Lori. I did write her name down. And Lori was found guilty of perjury, accessory after the fact to murder, and obstruction of justice. Um, there was something else that I was going to note in here. Oh, turns out, I want to say they were off in Cabo, someplace, and they were well known at a restaurant. Somebody overheard their conversation, and I think he had said something, "I killed my fucking wife for you," or something. So there were some tips. There were, and again, 5 years seems like a very long time, but in that 5 year investigation, a lot of shit came out, and they were able to charge him. So they got Larry and Lori. So that one was, I just feel like if you're going to fake kill your wife, if you're going to kill your wife, I feel like there had to have been like a better way to go about that. But Larry knew what he was doing. Clearly, he didn't. All right, so the next two episodes that I'm going to reference are Crime Junkie episodes. The first one, um, unfortunately, is a child. This was back in May of 2027, and parents Kate and Jerry McCann went with their, I believe she was 5-year old Madeleine, and then they have two twins, and they went with, I believe, like 9 other adults or so, but it's a big group, family, friend vacation, and they went to Portugal. They had this routine of going to a restaurant that was super close to the vacation house that they were renting, I believe. And they had these routines, like rotation of every 15 minutes or so, somebody goes back to the house. One of the adults goes back to the house to check on the kids. Now, I personally don't understand how you have that many adults and y'all can't decide to throw all y'all kids into one room or something, and one, two adults, like one couple, stays behind and watches the kids, and y'all just rotate which day, who watches who. But I want to say they're from England. Um, Me personally, that's what I would have done. Um, but this was the plan that they had. This was the rotation. Every once in a while, one of the parents would go back, check on the kids. Sometimes they would go all the way in. Sometimes they would just listen at the window. Now, I don't know that they had the same house or if they were all in the same area or not. But one couple even had a baby monitor. I figured that if I'm even going to go, like, even if I had somebody left in the house, well, I mean, these are all your friends. And I'm thinking of my friends. If I left my baby with my friends, I wouldn't still bring a baby monitor. But like, if they were in a huge house and I knew like the friends were going to be maybe sleep, or, yeah, we're going to be in the yard or something like that, I might additionally do, okay, well, y'all do that. We got a baby monitor for our baby. You can watch all 5 other kids. I don't know the details about how many kids there were, or if they were all in the same house, or if they were in different units, or what that there was. Actually, I think it may have been like one of those things, because I think at some point there was like a hallway or something somebody mentioned. But anyway, Madeline goes missing. There were, and this is in Praia de Luz in Portugal. There was initially a suspect named Robert, and he volunteered out the blue to translate. He volunteered with the police to translate for the family, as he spoke English, and this is in Portugal, so they spoke Portuguese. Um, they also looked at Robert because they thought it was strange, and he was asking the press a lot of like strange questions. And so they had their eye on him. One of the adults that was part of that larger group said they had seen someone carrying a child. Um, they looked like a local because they were wearing like a heavy wool coat, and they just felt like, like tourists don't really do that. We'll bring like sweaters or something like that, but we're not really going to bring a coat. And I guess it was just a feel that they had. So they looked into the guy, and they said that that person that they saw and suspected could be a person of interest in terms of the woman seeing someone, a man carrying a child, was actually also going in the direction of the man that volunteered to be the translator. He only lived like 150 feet from the vacation home. So in my head, that's across the street. Um, and he, asking all them questions, volunteering his services. You don't know these people. Um, Everybody thought it was strange. Then there was, they moved on from there, and they actually returned to the hotel room, the scene of the crime, if you will, 3 months later with cadaver dogs. Don't know why it was 3 months later, but the dogs picked up a scent in the closet as well as the trunk of the McCann's rental. Now, two things. First of all, they didn't rent the car until 24 days after their daughter went missing. So the cadaver dogs picking up a scent in the trunk, whose scent is it? Scent that they picked up in the rental. Whose scent is it? Now, cadaver dogs can pick up trace scents apparently from days, weeks, months, even years in the past, like years away. So not only was there a 3 month window between Madeleine going missing and the cadaver dogs coming in, the dogs are going to smell like, who's to say what they are picking up, right? It's a rental. It could have been anyone within the 3 months, like, and I believe the rental stayed empty for 1 month and then it went back into rotation for 2 months. So it could have been somebody in the 2 months from after, the incident happened, or it could have been somebody from 2 years earlier, 2 months before the McCann family actually rented that space out. So the cadaver dogs getting the hit was, what do we do with this, right? So after that, the police really leaned into kind of, well, not just the police, but I think the larger consensus was that the parents were somehow involved, right? They felt like maybe they hid the body and then at some point went and like got rid of it. But there was immediate searching. There was tons going on. It just seemed like a lot. It seemed like too much happening for them to be able to pull something like this off. Um, After 4 months of staying in Portugal, they finally had to go back to England. So they stayed for 4 months looking for their baby. That's just heartbreaking. First of all, just losing a baby. And then they also had twin kids younger. I want to say a boy and a girl. And just, can you imagine even being like those surviving children, like the siblings of Madeleine? Like, yeah, people said 20 years later, somebody asks you, oh, like, where are you from? What kind of places have you lived in? Say, yeah, I lived actually in Portugal for a few months because my sister went missing. I mean, like, these are people's families. Like, and it's wild that for as much true crime as we consume, how often do we look at the person sitting across from us on the train or the person standing behind us in line at the grocery store and consider you may be missing someone? Someone in your life may have been killed. Someone in your life, may have just disappeared and you not know what is going on. Like, it just kind of, even on vacation, even on vacation, you could be traveling to try to find some peace. You could be traveling because I lost a parent here and I am the only person that's left to advocate for them. So I consistently have to come to this location to press the police and to ask for questions to be answered and to, hire investigators. So many things. But so they initially blamed not initially, but the parents were also suspected for quite some time, and they ended up having to go back after 4 months with their other kids. And this again happened in 2007. Well, in the summer of 2020, not police from Portugal or from London, where I guess the family was stationed, where their home base, like, where the people live. They went back to England. So I guess they're from London. You sound like you're from London. Um, but police from Germany, German police, think they found the guy. And at that time, he was a 43-year-old man named Christian Bruckner. Now, Christian is not a good person. he there's a lot about the guy Christian. Truncating all of this into, I've got one, two, three, four, five bullets on him. First, in 2017, he confessed to snatching Madeleine after stalking the family for 4 days to a friend in a bar. They were in a bar, and this was in 2017, so it was 10 years, 10-year anniversary, I guess, coming up to her disappearance. And he was in a bar talking with a friend and decides to reveal to that friend that he's the one that snatched her after stalking them. And then he proceeded to show the friend a video of him brutalizing someone else. Don't need to get into those details. Trusting that this is true, I hope that man gets everything he deserves. Every single last thing he deserves. The friend went and told the police. Yay, friend. The police somehow, there's a lot of like crossing hairs and different little things. But in looking into that man Christian's connection to Madeleine, they uncovered a lot of shit. A lot of really bad stuff. Somehow they ended up, and the connections, the ties to how all these people end up getting connected it's a bit confusing. But somehow they ended up investigating him for the disappearance of it. He's been investigated for the disappearance and is believed to have been linked to at least 4 different children disappearing. I believe 3 of them at least were on vacation, and one of them I think was like coming home from school or something like that. He was also found, well, on his property, they were searching for a different little girl, and they ended up finding like multiple USBs with like over 8,000 pieces of really, really disturbing material, a lot of child sex abuse material, and like kids' bathing suits. It was bad. However, through all of the wild shit they found on him, through all of the horrible connections they have connected him to other missing children, apparently Madeleine at least is still very circumstantial. And so they are hoping that there is definitive evidence that places him in that home, the rental, or because there's circumstantial evidence. He was actually in that area based on cell phone evidence of where Madeleine went missing. However, I guess that's not enough. But he's in jail, and I believe that he was. I know there was something about 7 years. I think he'll be in jail for. I don't know if it's an additional 7 more years or if he had a total sentence of 7 years. I'm assuming it was based on some of the material that they found on his property. But then again, I don't even know if they were able to link that to him. I don't know if he shared the home with anyone. Lots of little almost had him kind of things. I don't particularly, even in the reporting of this story, it was made clear that there were some loose connections and they weren't exactly sure how everything kind of came together. But they believe that after that admission to the friend, that this guy is the one responsible for what happened to Madeleine. And again, my heart breaks for those people. For the one, even if hypothetically, right? We don't know who did it, but This case aside, for someone that we can definitively prove they did not have anything to do with the disappearance of their child. If this is all true, I cannot imagine how compoundingly hurtful and horrific it would be to find out that this man was watching you for 4 fucking days, learned your routine. And that means that you probably saw this man and did not know that that's who you were seeing. Somebody watching you for 4 days. Is it possible you never noticed them? Absolutely. But I think it's possibly unlikely. If you're following and watching our routine, I feel like you might have crossed paths somehow and just had no idea. Missing, hurt kids, kids that have been killed, kids that die naturally, just kids are rough, and watch your babies. Please watch your babies. Even when you watch your babies, you think you're doing everything right and shit goes fucking wrong. Oof. And the last one. This one was another whoa, right? So this episode, again, all the links to these episodes will be in the description box. But this one was back December 30th of 2018. And this story in particular was I don't know if I actually copied the correct title, but I don't think so. But it's about the death of Casey MacPherson-Pomeroy. I think it might be a hyphenated name here. My bad, y'all. Casey MacPherson-Pomeroy and Caleb Guillory. So, end of December 2018. Turns out, I believe, Casey is actually living in Anguilla for medical school. He is married to Barbara. He invites, Casey and Barbara, who are living in Anguilla for Casey to do medical school, invite their friends Caleb and Carly Guillory. They also invite, I want to say another couple's name is Chuck and Alicia. They've all known each other since they were kids. It's about to be New Year's. Come on down. Celebrate the New Year with us in Anguilla. Unfortunately, Casey and Caleb don't make it home. At this time, they are 37 years old. The police report to the home, and I believe, Caleb is dead, and Casey is in another room having seizures. Unfortunately, Casey does not survive. He passes. So the two men, both 37, no other known issues, if you will, gone. So in terms of an explanation as to what has happened, somehow the story comes out that it may have been Casey. I don't know which one of them. One of them ended up losing a flip-flop, forgetting his flip-flops, and they ended up going back to a beach bar that they were drinking at, and they split a drink while they were there, and then they got sick. Perhaps they were poisoned, right? Something went wrong. Oh no, don't know. There was a family friend that actually offered to get all 4 of the remaining adults, the 2 wives, and their additional 2 friends, Chuck and Alicia, I believe. And so who is this? This is Barbara, Carly, 2 wives of the decedents, and Chuck and Alicia. They were offered a private plane to pick them up and the bodies. So a family friend says, "Oh my God, so sorry for your loss. I have a plane. I come run and get y'all." They said no. They said that the fastest way to get them off that island would be to cremate these men's bodies. So these dudes mysteriously die, and they want to cremate the bodies and then run back home to the States. They're American. So this is where it starts getting a little. So Barbara, Casey's wife, claims that she too, all of a sudden, was with the boys when they went to go look for the flip flop, and that's where the story about the drink had come from. So, mind you, um, when the police got there, I'm trying to figure out which one of them it was. Caleb was already passed. Casey apparently had tried at some point to do CPR. So it seems as if Casey, at least one of them, returned back to the apartment still alive. So in my head, I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe he told the story. So the story about all of a sudden Barbara's there and before she wasn't, that like, because initially it was like, well, who would have known that they shared a drink if when they got back, all of a sudden somebody's dead? But they could have gotten back, said what happened, and then died. But anyway, so Barbara all of a sudden is talking about, oh no, I was there, but I didn't have as much to drink as them. I only had a sip, and I did get sick. Reports are saying that everybody seemed a little out of it. Everybody seemed a little bit off and kind of unusual or whatever. And they were sent to the hospital for, I guess making sure everybody was okay. But Barbara on return back to the States, they go to Casey's folks' house. They go to Casey's people. And remember, everybody knows each other. Casey and Barbara have been married like 13 years. It's going to keep getting weirder. Apparently, according to the family, their son Casey was saying, yeah, Barbara doesn't really do family, so we're not really pulling up to all the things. So the family didn't really know Barbara. They knew that they were, that their son and his new wife were into a lot of the same shit. Seemed like really happy. Um, and two things. One, Barbara's much older than Casey. Barbara's like 22 years older than Casey. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, when they got married, um, Casey was like 28, 31 or something like that, and Barbara was like 52. Um, Additionally, prior to being in medical school, Casey was an actor. He had been doing all right with like some extra gigs, and no one had really known him to have aspirations of being a doctor, but all of a sudden he's in Anguilla and he's in medical school. Woo! Excuse me, y'all. So strange is getting stranger. So Barbara also says to Casey's parents, now mind you, they're talking to Casey's parents. Nobody else is speaking. The other couple, the other wife, Carly, Alicia, Chuck, they're not speaking in turn. Like they're just sitting quietly. They're not commenting. They don't really have much to say. Barbara says that they all got arrested. They their shit got took. Like they took their phones, they took their computers and all that stuff. They put them all in separate jail cells. And this is the Anguillan police is doing this to them, according to Barbara. That they were arrested, they had all their devices taken, they were put in separate cells, they were given no food, no water, and they were refused the ability to speak with the consulate. So according to Barbara, like they were all scared, and apparently Chuck's parents sent them $40,000 because Barbara was just like, that's the only way we're all going to get off this island safe. We're cremating the bodies. We need $40,000 to get off the island. Now, according to Ashley, she could not find any records of the $40,000. So there is some speculation that this may have been bribe money. And they're thinking that, hey, Anguilla is a very expensive Caribbean island whose GDP is very heavily reliant on tourism. Perhaps it is, especially after Barbara is saying that this is how they were treated, perhaps it's like a payoff or, some type of bribe for them to leave without formally being charged for these murders. So, about the murders, there was. Oh, and additionally, Barbara just keeps getting more and more suspicious. She tells the family, "I don't want a memorial." He wouldn't want that. Additionally, don't ask me any questions. Don't talk to the public. Zip it. So we don't want a memorial. And we don't want you talking to anybody. And also the survivors, there were air quotes there. The survivors aren't discussing anything. And as the next of kin, because remind you, both of these men were married, their wives are getting these updates. Barbara being squirrely. Other Shorty Carly, she not talking. Um, Another nod to Barbara being a little weird. Turns out Casey's friend, really good friend, who was also his manager in his stint as an actor, was like, I've known this man like over 10 years. Like, I feel like they've been childhood friends or something. But the point was, they knew each other very well, or he had known him for a very long time. He said he had no idea that man was married. No partner, no shorty, no wife. He mentioned a wedding that he went to and was the best man in. And in hindsight, the manager, the friend, was just like, "Oh, bitch, that was his wedding," but he lied about the wife. Now, that lie kind of leads into the fact that perhaps there were other pieces of information that may have been omitted or completely falsified, because it turns out that believe it was an autopsy or something had been done, but they found MDA and coke in their system. So basically, they OD'd. However, however, wait, let me go back, make sure I didn't leave anything out before I get to my next. However, not to talk about. Next, Kim, not get any news, not close to family. Oh, so Anguilla had said that they were releasing official documents about what happened to Caleb in terms of manner of death, cause of death, and all that jazz. However, the family still has no answers because that information went to the next of kin. So they're like, so did y'all just not release anything, or is Barbara not telling us anything? So the family low-key sent a spy to Anguilla to be able to kind of get information about what is going on, since Anguilla isn't communicating with them as his wife is the next of kin. So they end up getting information that states, oh, the so the documents that they ended up getting access to, which is a death certificate, just makes it seem like it's an OD, but 4 times the lethal dose. 4 times the lethal dose. So then the question, like then the narrative in the episode was kind of like, so, like, were they experimenting with drugs? Nobody knows if they're heavy drug users. And then, of course, the family's just like, well, no, Casey and Caleb, they don't do drugs. But they barely knew this man's wife. His agent didn't even know he was married. Barbara's not talking. Nobody else is talking. These are also grown men. What, like, realistically speaking, is it fair to say that their parents would actively know if they were actually drug users or not? It's possible that they didn't. They could have just been dabbling. They're on fucking vacation and it's about to be fucking New Year's. They may have just been experimenting. Who fucking knows, right? So were they just doing drugs and they tried something new? Because apparently MDA is not the same as MDMA, which is, I believe, ecstasy, but it's something similar, at least in terms of the chemical compounds of it. So maybe they were trying something new that they weren't familiar with, don't know. But 4 times the lethal dose. So is it because they took too much or were they fucking poisoned? That being the case, nobody's talking. So nobody has a fucking idea if maybe they were dabbling, maybe they weren't, or if somebody did it. And the family also hired a PI. Interesting enough to note that it was the same PI who worked the Holloway case, who she had disappeared in Aruba in 2005. Crime Junkie has, I think, I think it's a fan club episode about that. I haven't heard that episode, but because it gets even wilder. So Caleb's death certificate, according to Barbara, they had drank from the same drink, right? So you would expect that their manner of death would be identical. You'd think it would be the same, because if we're saying that that's how the drugs got into them, that they were drugged, that something happened, or that they were together and then they both ended up dying, you would think that it'd be the same. However, it's not. Fucking Caleb's death certificate does indeed have MDA and coke. However, he also had evidence of being strangled with a ligature and multiple blunt force traumas. So, lots of questions, lots of things going on, lots of speculation about there being some collusion, about there being some type of bribery going on. But again, there is absolutely zero record of that $40,000 that was wired, and there is speculation that, and to mind you, this information is coming from Barbara. Like, Barbara is telling Casey's family this, and this is where their information is coming from. So they still have all these questions, and they're still trying to get answers. But because nobody is talking, they're not getting information, and it goes, the no talking goes even further. So the case was supposed to have had a coroner's inquest into the men's death at the end of January. So this happened, I think this, what did I say? December 3rd, December 30th of 2018. So by the end of the following month, like the January of 2019, there was supposed to have been a coroner's inquest into the death. However, that didn't happen actually until September. However, it was just a call, because they couldn't actually do the inquest because none of the remaining folks, the two wives and the two friends, the four of them refused to return to Anguilla. So, and apparently they were supposedly subpoenaed. However, that's what Ashley could not find a record of. There was no record of them being subpoenaed, because this is, again, Barbara telling Casey's family that this is what happened. And because they won't return to Anguilla, the coroner's inquest cannot be completed. And so those answers that the family would love to have is not coming, because the authorities will not go through with the inquest without being able to question the, air quotes again, survivors about what happened. They want testimony from these people, and they're not getting it because they refuse to talk. So another suspicious note to add, there's funny business with the insurance policies. So it's not suspicious that partners, husband and wife, would have insurance policies where they're each the respective beneficiary to the other's policies. However, before they left, Barbara tried to raise Casey's policy by like $1 million, $1.5 million, or something like that. So she tried to raise the death benefit. But as a, I don't really know, because again, she's not officially been charged with this, so it's not proven that she did anything. But she's just very suspicious based on all the information that is able to, I don't say that is able to be proved, but the information that the family does have based on what Barbara is saying and what they are getting from the people that they have on the ground is that, like, she can't even get. Oh, here was another thing. So the day after they apparently got out of jail in Anguilla, Barbara tried to put a claim in for the payout for the death insurance. However, they won't pay out until the inquest is done. So she tried to put a claim, and, like, in the conversation of the episode, there was, well, in the episode, there was conversation that, you know, well, maybe she, it was Britt that was playing devil's advocate, and she was saying, well, maybe she, um, placed the claim because you got to try to pay for what's going on. You got to get back, or you got bills to pay. Like, you're, people die, and that's expensive, right? But then Ashley was like, so you have somebody with a private fucking jet offered to come pick y'all up, solve that problem, bring you back to the States with the bodies, not the cremated bodies, but with the bodies uncremated, like just with their bodies and the remaining living couples that were there. Private jet to come get them. And she was like, so you couldn't ask family for help with whatever kind of bills were going on. You were in such grave danger. You were so afraid. You were so worried about your safety that you would go through all the steps to file an insurance claim, but you wouldn't just grab the first tangible offer of realistic help to get you back to the States to navigate what was going on. So there's so many things that are fingers pointing at there being more to this than meets the eye. Barbara's not looking good. But yeah, uh, the shows are well done. I greatly appreciate Crime Junkie, the Crime Junkie family, if you will, the Audio Chuck family, all the different shows that Ashley has. Travel is so much more than vacation, y'all. And I would like to have the big, loving, kind enough heart and make the assumption that those regular listeners, we aren't traveling to do harm to others. Um, but shit does go wrong. Unfortunately, there are, as much as I know that my mantra for solo travel was I do it by myself at home so I can do it by myself abroad, right? I eat by myself, I live by myself. I would go grocery shopping. I did all the things by myself. So when I was a solo traveler, after I kind of, talk to myself, I'm just like, girl, you do all these things in regular life alone. It's basically the same thing, but in a different country, right? So for me, that quelled a lot of my fears about, oh, well, it's just going to be me. It's just me by myself here, right? So inversely, the same way, something could go wrong at any given moment. We all know that tomorrow is not promised. We all know that by the grace of God, we wake up every damn day and we go to sleep and we get a chance to do it again the next day. But the same way anything could go wrong while you are at home, the same thing can happen while you are abroad. As much as all this travel content loves to remind us of how beautiful it is and how great it is to immerse yourselves in different cultures and to experience the beauty and wonders of the world. Unfortunately, behind some of those wonders happens to absolutely be some darkness. So, on your travels, while you are home, please be aware of your surroundings, keep your loved ones close, keep people abreast and aware of where you are supposed to be, what your anticipated itinerary is, check ins with other people, so that you can return home safely and be with the people you love. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Hope you guys check out the referenced podcasts and enjoy those. And I will see you guys next week with a more upbeat topic. All right, y'all. Be safe out there. Bye.